I think entrepreneurship is somebody who dares to dream and is willing to go to whatever lengths to make that happen. So think about it like this. I was trying to think of an analogy for you guys that would resonate. So think about the idea of a symphony, right? And you have winds, and you have horns, and you have percussion, right? They're all different pieces, but those different pieces come together to create a symphony that we go in here and we participate in. So an entrepreneurial endeavor is something like that. It's taking these different elements. The survey that Dean Bowen sent out that I put together was thinking through these different elements and how they come together. So let's talk for a minute about different characteristics of an entrepreneur, right? So first, I think of an entrepreneur as a dreamer. I kind of said that before. I've got a couple examples of either situations that happened in my career or people that I know, some of whom you'll know. Have you guys ever heard of Pandora, the internet? Yeah, everybody has. So the guy from Pandora wrote a business plan, and he went out and he started trying to get somebody to invest in it, right? That's normal. That's kind of the process and how it works. He went out and had to do it 369 times. On the 370th time, somebody said, okay, I'll invest in your business. Well, now it's about to go public. Everybody's heard of it. Everybody uses it. And so I started to ask myself, when would I have given up? You know, how many times would you guys have pitched your idea before you would have said, oh, this just isn't going to work? Is it 10 times? Is it 100 times? I thought for myself, oh, I'd maybe go 50. But after 50, I'd say, listen, this just doesn't make sense, and I don't think anybody's interested in this. But that's what makes an entrepreneur so great, is because they say yes when everybody else says no, right? So entrepreneurs are dreamers. Second of all, entrepreneurs are resourceful. I'll give you an example of Morpheus, and you guys may not have heard. Morpheus is essentially what BitTorrent is today. Do you guys? Okay. Or Napster was then, and there's a bunch of reasons why ours worked and Napster didn't, but it was kind of right time, right place. We had 100 million people in the first year sign up. So a guy called me and said, we're starting this company. It's going to be called Morpheus. Would you write an online advertising plan for us? I said, okay, great. Give me 2 weeks. I had absolutely no idea how to develop an online advertising plan, right? So I said, all right. So the first week, I just started researching it. So essentially what they were going to do is they're going to put ads on their page, you know, ads that we all love ads so much, and they were going to sell those ads, and that's how they were going to make money to make the site work. So the first week, I researched what online advertising was. The second week, I wrote the plan. And I went in, and he gave me 4 sales guys. There were 3 Vanderbilt students and a high school student. This was in Nashville. And we started to sell. And so I went out and read a book on selling. It was called Spin Selling, which is a great book if you guys are ever interested. But the first month, we made $150,000. The second month, we made $350,000. And the third month, we made $500,000. I had no idea whether that was good or not, but it was going up. So we were really excited about it, right? So we began, I was 23 years old, so we began to build this company based on some college students, your age, right, and a high school kid who had no idea about sales. But nobody was there to tell us that we couldn't do it. We were resourceful. We ended up being able to be successful in that. So entrepreneurs are dreamers. Entrepreneurs are resourceful. Entrepreneurs adapt. One of the things that you'll see as you guys begin to think through what you want to do and how you want to do it is what you start off to create and what you end up creating often happen to be a little bit different, right? So you have to adapt. So this story is about a guy who actually went to SMU, a good friend of mine named Blake Mikowski. Have you guys ever heard of Tom Shoes? So Blake created Tom Shoes. What people don't know about Blake is that after he left SMU, he started a laundry company. And this laundry, I think they're still in Dallas now, but he was at Vanderbilt in Nashville when I met him, and he and his sister did this show called The Amazing Race. Please tell me you guys have heard of The Amazing Race. Okay. It's still on television, I guess. So he goes out to LA, does The Amazing Race, and after it's over, he says, you know, nobody really has this reality television thing is kind of catching on. Nobody really has a network for reality television, so he begins to build this reality television network, which, if you can imagine, is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week reality television. None of us would ever leave our house. You know, whether you like reality television or not, you just kind of get stuck. I sit there and I think, the Jersey Shore is the dumbest thing I've ever seen, but for some reason I'm watching it, right? So that's kind of what happened. So he did that for a while, and he just adapted, and he changed his idea. He knew he wanted to start something. He knew he wanted to build something. And then there was a couple other businesses that we worked on together, and he ended up in South America, where he found himself came up with the idea for Tom's Shoes and built that. So Blake, who I think comes to back here a lot and talks, is one that's really great, who talks about adapting and how he takes an idea and he knew he wanted to start something and he melded it into what came his way and what was available to him. The final one is that entrepreneurs take chances. I was reading a story the other day. You guys know U2 and Bono, and the greatest rock band in the history of the world, arguably. And it was telling a story about 25, 30 years ago, they did something called Live Aid, which they just redid a couple years ago, but this was 1985, and it was a really big deal, and nobody kind of knew who U2 was at that point. And so U2's up on stage, and they're doing their thing, and they're singing their songs that nobody really knows yet, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Bono jumps off the stage and goes into the crowd. And he starts talking to people and singing and interacting with people, and messed up the song, screwed up the sequence, everything was had run awry. So he gets up there and they get off stage and they're destroyed. They said, we've lost it. We're going to no longer be a band. Nobody's ever going to want to hear us again. I can't believe that we did that. Well, a couple days later, they were in New York, and Bono picks up a paper, and it's USA Today and New York Times, and it talks about how cool it was that Bono jumped off the stage and went into the audience and began to interact with people, right? And so what they thought was going to kill them ended up really making them great. You'll find yourself over and over and over again having to decide if you're willing to take a chance. I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I talk to a lot of people who run businesses. And the one thing that I tell them, and if you look at a room like this, there's maybe 100 people in here. If there's 100 people in the room that are entrepreneurial, 100 people in the room that believe they can change the way something's done. You truly believe you can change the way somebody listens to the trombone. You truly believe you can change the way somebody interacts with music or film or theater, right? Well, I think that out of 100 people, 2 of you can actually do it. We just don't know which 2 it is, right? So if you look at the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, and you look at the Bill Gates, and you look at the Blake Mikowskis and the Steve Jobs, they went out there and they said yes when everybody else said no. And so I want to encourage you guys that where you are in your age and in your career as a student, you have lots of dreams, and people will tell you as you get older, well, you'll start to exist in reality, and you'll think, well, I can't really do that, or that's going to be too hard, or that's not realistic. Nobody's going to believe you. Nobody's going to invest in this. And I would say that's not true. What I would always tell somebody is I'd say figure out what you love and then go find a way to make money doing it. And sometimes that means that you're going to be the next U2, and you're going to be on stage in front of millions and millions of people. And sometimes that means you're going to be able to play music as a hobby, and sometimes it means you might be able to work in a business as a musician or on the business side of music. And I would just encourage you guys, you really have to begin to think, what do you want to do, and figure out how to make it happen.